It's paradoxical, but I believe to get more out of life, you need to do less. Life is essentially about finding different ways to fill time, so knowing roughly how you want to fill that time is important. I've talked about this in a previous video, but there's this good life equation, and to me that's roughly what a human wants in their life. And trying to achieve that is a never-ending process, but that's a good thing. I think a lot of people see hedonic adaptation as a bad thing. I can see why. Just the idea that even if you achieve everything you want in life and you get the massive house and all the money, that your base level of happiness won't really increase. That's kind of depressing. But when you look more into it, hedonic adaptation is what keeps everyone moving forward. And if happiness comes from the pursuit of goals and having direction in life, then the hedonic treadmill is what keeps people happy. But back to the less is more philosophy for now. Do less, narrow your focus and increase depth. And in doing those things, you'll essentially just learn more and retain more of what you learn. As a random example, if you want to be more articulate and a better communicator, simply do less other stuff and just focus on that skill. Just do a deep dive into great speakers and essentially do a deep dive into that subject and practice it. So just to quickly go through each of those three things I just mentioned. So doing less is about understanding and practicing Essentialism. If you've not read that book, I would recommend it. From the title, you can kind of get an idea of what it's about. But essentially doing less is about having a clear picture of what you want to want. So I want a cake right now, but I want to want a salad because it's good for you and stuff. Doing less can also be about putting all your effort and focus towards your current goals. By far one of the best things that I've done to do less and focus more on the important things is cutting out social media and Netflix. I know, pretty obvious thing that everyone says, but it's true. If you're cutting out 2 hours of Netflix every day and another 2 hours of YouTube every day, that's leaving you with a lot of time to focus on your goals or whatever you want to do. So increasing depth is about building deep passions and avoiding diseases of abundance. This is something that Naval Ravikant has talked about, and it's the idea that in modern society, most of our diseases are diseases of abundance. So in the olden times, people starved, and if they got a bit of sugar or a small piece of news or a small piece of entertainment, that would have been a good thing. But in today's age, we're overexposed to pretty much everything: food, entertainment, and so the key is to try and turn some of those things off. And again, I mentioned this in my previous video, but you can read 100 books, or you can read one book 100 times. And the book you read 100 times will likely have a bigger impact on you than reading 100 different books. But obviously the same rule goes for all consumption. Constantly adding new things to your life won't really make it easier. So just choose a few essential things and put all your effort into learning more about those things. And finally, maximising wisdom. So this is 10 times easier when you're doing and consuming more of the same stuff. Everyone can read a powerful line in a book, but very few people can actually apply what they've learned. And this is a thing that Chris Williamson has brought up a lot: mental masturbation. Essentially, it's listening to a podcast or reading a book and taking a note on some insightful quote or piece of advice and taking zero action on it. You discover this piece of genuinely useful information and you kind of just fantasize about applying it. And that's something that I fall victim to a lot. There's a lot of things that I've learned and just not applied. But you're never going to be able to apply everything you learn. And as long as you're occasionally applying what you learn, that's good enough. So when you can, try to do less, narrow your focus and increase the depth of everything in your life.